Hi everyone and welcome back to 11 Minutes Talk. I'm Marco and I'm here with...
Didar. Hi, hello everyone.
Today we have a very special guest, Professor Carl Wieman, Nobel Prize winner in physics. Professor Wieman, thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you?
Fine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay.
So let's start with the first question. Professor Wieman, what is currently occupying most of your attention in your research and teaching work?
So these days I don't do any physics research anymore like I got the Nobel Prize for. I've been spending probably the last 20 years focusing on research on teaching and learning and science and engineering and how people learn and how to do it better.
Oh, okay, perfect. And when did you first realize you were interested in physics?
Oh boy, that was a long time ago. As a high school student, I had some interest in physics, but what really got me seriously involved in physics and launched my career was when I was an undergraduate. As a first-year student, really, even, I got started working in a research lab, and I just found that so much more enjoyable, rewarding than taking courses. That got me started doing physics, and I did it for many years after that.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. And how would you explain the work that led to your Nobel Prize to a non-specialist in a few words?
Just in a few words.
Yeah.
We figured out a way to get atoms extremely cold, much colder than anyone had been able to do before. And when we did that, then they transformed into a kind of new form of matter called the Bose-Einstein condensate, which Einstein had predicted, 80 years before, but no one had ever been able to achieve these very low temperatures required to realize it.
Okay.
And also, I'm really wondering about what led you to shift from the physics research towards science education?
That's a longer answer, but basically, it was looking at my physics students and how they'd taken many years of physics classes without really learning to do physics. And so that made me puzzled because they seemed competent. Once they'd worked for me for a few years, they'd turned into good physicists. And so I really started studying how people learned and what research there was on it to understand this behavior, and it made me realize there were much better ways to teach, and I got started also in doing research in it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And if you have to rebuild science education at the university level from the ground up, what's the one thing you would absolutely keep at the core?
The parts I would keep at the core are a little harder to pin down. I mean, I think the competence and knowledge of the professors is essential, but the things that it's easier for me to look at what things I think should change. I mean, I think the thing that needs to change is that the model of learning that has been used in universities for many years, if not centuries now, is that you're basically taking a fixed brain and you're filling it with knowledge. And I think what research is showing us is that instead learning is about transforming the brain and essentially hooking the neurons up in different ways to develop new capabilities in the brain. So I think the primary thing I focus on is trying to change this belief from putting knowledge into a brain to actually developing that brain through mental practice.
The way you did and the build, it's admirable. And also, in your view, what can and cannot AI do when it comes to education?
Oh, gosh. We're still learning. Everybody's still learning what AI can and can't do. I think in terms of its use in teaching, what it's very good for is providing information, providing answers. It's not very good at helping a learner understand how to change their thinking, because that requires you to kind of have a model of how the learner is thinking in order to help them. And AI doesn't have a model for how a student brain works. And so that's where its weakness is. And we are trying to figure out how to train it essentially artificially to do that.
Oh, okay. And also, if you had a chance to explain what is success for you?
That one is very difficult for me to say. I mean, I work on various challenges for my life in various ways, and sometimes they work and succeed, and sometimes they don't. And when something's successful, an experiment comes out like I hope, gives a good result, that's success.
Okay, last question. If you could give one piece of advice to your 19-year-old self, what would it be?
You ask hard questions. Boy, I'm not. I guess my one advice would be that recognizing that learning is hard work and you really have to put in a lot of mental exercise, but it's worth it. I mean, in the end, you get better by doing that hard mental effort, and so you have to sort of stick with it.
Okay, perfect. Professor Wieman, thank you so much for your time. It was a real pleasure speaking with you today. And thank you everyone for listening to 11 Minute Talk.
Thank you.